Park sat at her small desk in the Galactic Integration office in Seoul. The morning sun came through the window and made everything warm and golden. She was filling out forms, the same thing she did every day. Her tea was getting cold beside her, but she did not mind. She liked her simple life. Was 19 years old and not very tall. She stood at only 155 centimeters, and people often thought she was younger than her real age. She had a round face and eyes that always seemed to be smiling, even when she was not. She grew up in an orphanage on the edge of Seoul, and she learned early that a smile could make hard days easier. 3 months ago, she had applied to the Galactic Administrative Academy. It was a training program for people who wanted desk jobs in space. Nothing exciting, just paperwork and filing, and maybe, if she was lucky, a small office with a window that looked out at the stars. That was her dream, a quiet life among the stars. The door to her office opened with a loud bang. Looked up from her forms and saw Director standing there. His face was very pale, like someone had given him terrible news. Behind him stood 4 soldiers in black uniforms. They were not Korean military. Their uniforms had the symbol of the Galactic Alliance on them. "Miss Park," Director said, his voice was shaking. "There has been a situation." "Put down her pen. Is something wrong, Director?" One of the soldiers stepped forward. He was tall and had a serious face. "Park, you have been accepted to the Galactic Apex Combat Institute. Your transport leaves in 2 hours. Come with us." Blinked. She tilted her head to the side like a confused bird. "I am sorry, I think there is a mistake. I applied to the Administrative Academy for desk work." The soldier looked at a tablet in his hand. "Application code 7 Alpha 4491, Galactic Apex Combat Institute. Your acceptance has been processed and confirmed by the Galactic Treaty Council." "But I applied to code 1 Alpha 4491, said. She was not angry, she was just confused. Someone must have typed the wrong number. Director made a sound like he was choking. "Miss Park, I am so sorry. I have already contacted the council. But once an acceptance is confirmed under Galactic Treaty law, it cannot be changed. The treaty is 2,000 years old. They will not make an exception." Thought about this for a moment, then she smiled. "Well, that is very inconvenient." The soldiers looked at each other. They had seen many reactions to this kind of news. They had seen people cry. They had seen people fight. They had seen people try to run. They had never seen someone smile and call it inconvenient. "Miss Park," the tall soldier said slowly, "do you understand what the Galactic Apex Combat Institute is?" "Not really," admitted. "It is the most dangerous military academy in the known galaxy. Students come from 400 star systems. They are warriors bred for combat. The mortality rate for first-year students is 34%. Nodded thoughtfully. "That means 66% survive, yes." "Yes, but—" "Then I will be in the 66%. She stood up from her desk and picked up her small bag. It had her lunch in it, rice and vegetables and some homemade crackers. "Should I bring anything else?" The soldiers did not know what to say. Director grabbed his arm. His eyes were wet. "Miss Park, you do not understand. This place is not for humans like you. It is for killers, for monsters, for creatures that eat other creatures for breakfast." Patted his hand gently. "Director, you worry too much. I am sure everyone will be very nice once I get to know them." The transport ship was enormous. Had never been in space before, and she spent the first hour just looking out the window. Earth got smaller and smaller until it was just a blue dot among millions of other dots. She thought it was very beautiful. A man sat down across from her. He was Korean like her, but he looked very different. He was tall and muscular, and he had the hard eyes of someone who had seen many bad things. His uniform said lieutenant. "You are the clerical error," he said. It was not a question. "I am Park," she replied cheerfully. "Would you like some rice crackers? I made them myself." Lieutenant stared at her, then he looked at the crackers, then he looked back at her face. He could not understand this woman. Miss Park, I am your military liaison. It is my job to prepare you for what is coming. The Galactic Apex Combat Institute is also called the Grinder. Do you know why? Because it is very difficult. Because it grinds students into dust. The weakest die in the first month, the unlucky die in training accidents, the slow die in combat exercises, only the strongest graduate. Thought about this, then she held out the bag of crackers again. Are you sure you do not want some? You seem very stressed. Took a cracker, he did not know why, he just did. It was actually very good. Miss Park, I have to write a report about you, for the Korean government. They want to know how you are handling this situation. That is nice of them to care. What should I write? Looked out the window again. The stars were so bright out here, away from Earth's atmosphere. You can write that I am nervous but also excited. I have never had an adventure before. This is all very new. Wrote in his report. Subject displays either remarkable courage or complete dissociation from reality. Further observation required. The ship traveled for 3 days through hyperspace. Spent most of the time reading about the academy on her tablet. The information was not encouraging. The school was built into an asteroid belt. The training grounds included live fire zones, hunting preserves with dangerous creatures, and something called the pit that the tablet would not explain. The students came from species that had never heard of. There were tall reptiles who had fought 3 galactic wars. There were massive insects who valued honor above all things. They were made of living crystal and communicated through vibrations. There were dozens more. Humans had attended the academy before. In 200 years of the school's history, exactly 12 humans had enrolled. 8 had died. 2 had withdrawn due to permanent injuries. 2 had graduated. The odds were not good, but had grown up with bad odds. The orphanage had not been a kind place. She learned to survive by being small and quiet and helpful. She learned that angry people became less angry when you gave them food. She learned that scary people were often just lonely people who needed someone to talk to. Maybe aliens were the same way. The ship came out of hyperspace, and warning alarms started to ring. Through the window, saw the academy for the first time. It was built into a massive asteroid, surrounded by smaller rocks and debris. The surface was covered with lights and structures and weapons platforms. Scorch marks and impact craters covered everything. It looked like a place that had seen many battles. Warning lights flashed across every surface. Signs in 100 languages told ships to stay away unless they had authorization. Gun turrets tracked their approach. Lieutenant came to stand beside her. Last chance to be afraid, Miss Park. Looked at the terrifying structure. At the weapon platforms that could destroy their ship in seconds. At the warnings that promised death to anyone who did not belong. She smiled and waved at it. Added one more line to his report. I do not think she understands the danger, or perhaps she understands it better than anyone. I cannot tell which possibility frightens me more. The ship began its final approach to the grinder, and Park, the clerical error, finished the last of her rice crackers and wondered if the cafeteria would have good food. The docking bay of the Galactic Apex Combat Institute was the largest room had ever seen. Ships of every size and shape filled the space, and creatures of every kind walked between them. Some were tall and covered with scales. Some were short and had too many arms. Some floated in the air and some crawled on the ceiling. Stepped off her ship and looked around with wide eyes. A creature that looked like a walking shark bumped into her and growled something in a language she did not understand. Its teeth were very sharp. "Excuse me," said politely and stepped out of its way. The shark creature stopped. It turned around and looked at her. No one had ever said "excuse me" to it before. Usually small creatures ran away or screamed. This tiny pink thing had done neither. It stared at her for a long moment, then walked away, confused. Lieutenant led through the docking bay and into a long hallway. The walls were made of dark metal, and the lights were dim. Everything looked dangerous and serious. Other new students walked in the same direction and noticed that she was by far the smallest person in the crowd. All new students report to Processing Hall 7, a voice said from speakers in the ceiling. Classification will begin in 30 minutes. Stopped at a large door. This is where I leave you, Miss Park. I am not allowed in the student areas. Will I see you again? Asked. I will be stationed here for the semester if you survive that long. He paused. Good luck, you will need it. Thank you, Lieutenant, and thank you for eating my crackers. I was worried no one would try them. Watched her walk through the door. He shook his head slowly. That woman was going to die. He was certain of it, and yet some small part of him was not so sure. Processing Hall 7 was filled with new students. There were maybe 200 of them, all standing in lines and waiting for their turn to be scanned. The noise was incredible. Growls and clicks and hisses and sounds that could not even describe filled the air. A massive creature stood near the front of the hall. It was one of the reptilian warriors had read about. It stood over 2 meters tall and had dark green scales. Its eyes were yellow and cold. When it spoke, its voice was deep enough to feel in the chest. I am instructor, it said. I have taught at this academy for 40 years. I have seen students from every species in the galaxy. I have seen warriors who became legends. I have seen warriors who became corpses. Most of you will become corpses. The crowd was silent. When you pass through the scanner, you will be classified. Your threat level and combat potential will be measured. This will determine your training group and your schedule. Do not argue with your results. The scanner does not lie. One by one, students stepped through a large metal arch. Numbers and words appeared on a screen beside it. Watched as a massive creature walked through. The screen lit up with impressive numbers. Threat level severe. Combat potential exceptional. Species KHRELL. Designation GRAXIS. The creature called made a clicking sound that might have been pride. It was huge, nearly 3 meters tall, with 6 limbs and a hard black shell. Its eyes were like dark jewels, and its mandibles looked sharp enough to cut metal. More students passed through. Their numbers were high. Their threat levels were severe or extreme. Their combat potentials were excellent or exceptional. Then it was turn. She walked through the scanner with a polite smile. The machine hummed. Then it beeped. Then it beeped again. The screen flickered as if it was having trouble deciding what to show. Finally, words appeared. Threat level negligible. Combat potential unmeasurable. The hall went silent for a moment. Then laughter erupted. 200 of the galaxy's most dangerous creatures laughed at the tiny human who was too weak to even register on the combat scale. Pushed through the crowd. Its massive form towered over like a mountain over a pebble. This thing should not be here, said. Its voice was like rocks grinding together. It is prey, not a student. I claim first kill rights. Instructor stepped forward. First kill rights are not permitted during orientation week. You know the rules. Then after orientation week, I will hunt it. This is my claim. Other students nodded and clicked and growled in agreement. The small human was obviously a mistake. It would be fun to hunt. Looked up at, she had to tilt her head very far back to see its face. Hello, she said. I am Park. It is nice to meet you. Made a sound of disgust. It speaks to me as if we are equals. Disgusting. I am sorry if I was rude, said. She was still smiling. Can you tell me where the cafeteria is? I missed lunch. The laughter grew louder. This creature was asking about food. Here, now, it truly did not understand where it was. Instructor approached. He looked at his tablet, then at her, then at his tablet again. His yellow eyes were impossible to read. You are Park, human, enrolled due to administrative error. Yes, sir, it was a typing mistake. You applied for desk work. Yes, sir, I am very good at organizing files. Stared at her for a long time, then he made a note on his tablet. You have been assigned to me. I will be your handler. Report to my office after the first test. What is the first test? Asked. Did not answer. He walked away. The other students looked at with expressions that ranged from amusement to hunger. She was not sure which was worse. A human voice spoke from behind her. You need to stay close to me. Turned around. A man stood there. He was Korean, tall and powerful, with muscles that looked like they were carved from stone. His eyes were sharp, and his stance was that of a trained fighter. Everything about him said warrior. I am No, he said. Special Warfare Command, genetically enhanced for combat. I am one of only 12 humans who has ever enrolled here by choice. That is very impressive, said. I am Park. I applied for a different school. Closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, he looked tired. I heard, everyone heard, you are famous now, the human who cannot fight. Is that bad? In this place, it is the worst thing you can be. He looked around at the other students, who were still watching like predators watching a meal. The first test is in 1 hour. You need to understand what it is. He explained as they walked to the testing arena. The first test was called the Pit. It was a zero-gravity combat zone filled with predator drones. Every new student had to survive inside for 10 minutes. The drones would hunt them, attack them, and try to eliminate them. Students were allowed to fight back, run, hide, or do whatever they needed to survive. The drones learn, said. They study your movements, they predict your actions, they adapt to your fighting style. The only way to survive is to be unpredictable. I do not have a fighting style, said. I know, that is the problem. The arena was a massive sphere floating in the center of the station. Students entered through tubes at the bottom and floated up into the zero-gravity zone. The walls were covered with screens that showed the action inside. Outside, instructors and senior students watched and took notes. When's turn came, she floated into the sphere with a group of 20 other students. Was with her. So was. 10 minutes starts now, a voice announced. Red lights began to glow around the edges of the arena. Survive. Metal panels opened in the walls and drones flew out. They were small and fast, with glowing blue sensors and sharp cutting tools on their arms. They immediately began to hunt. Moved like water, he kicked off walls, dodged drones, and struck them down with precise hits. He was beautiful to watch, a perfect fighting machine. Was like a storm. It grabbed drones and crushed them. It roared and charged and destroyed everything in its path. Floated. She had never been in zero gravity before. She did not know how to move. She kicked her legs, but nothing happened. She waved her arms, but she just spun in place. She was completely helpless. 3 drones noticed her. They flew toward her in perfect formation, their sensors locked on. Saw this? He tried to reach her, but more drones swarmed him. He could not get free. Saw 2, but it was on the other side of the arena, too far to help, not that it wanted to help. The drones got closer. Their cutting tools began to spin. Panicked, she kicked and flailed and spun in random directions. She bounced off a wall, then off another student, then off a drone that could not move out of the way fast enough. She tumbled through the arena like a ball in a game. The drones tried to follow, but they could not. Their prediction systems could not understand what she was doing. She was not fighting. She was not fleeing. She was not doing anything that made sense. Their targeting computers locked on, then lost her, then locked on again. Error messages filled their systems. Bumped into something solid. She grabbed it to stop her spinning. It was a control panel in the center of the arena, put there for emergency shutdowns. Her hand hit a large red button. Every drone in the arena stopped. Their lights went dark. They fell slowly in the weak gravity, useless and dead. The arena was silent. Then a voice announced, "Test complete, all students have survived." Outside the arena, instructor watched the replay footage. He watched it again, and again, and again. For 6 hours, he watched the tiny human accidentally disable the entire system. His report said, "She did not survive because she was skilled. She survived because she was so incompetent that competent responses could not account for her. This requires further study." Found after the test, it demanded a private match, a proper hunt, one-on-one. Thought for a moment, then she asked, "Can we do it after lunch? I am very hungry." Had no idea how to respond to that, so it just walked away, more confused than angry. Sat down next to in the cafeteria. He watched her eat rice and vegetables as if she had not just survived the impossible. "How did you do that?" he asked. Looked at him and smiled. "I do not know. I was just very scared and very confused. Is the rice here always this good?" Decided that he needed to protect this woman. Not because she was weak, but because he had a feeling that something very strange was happening, and he wanted to see how it ended. 3 months passed at the Galactic Apex Combat Institute. Did not die. This surprised everyone, including herself. Every morning she woke up in her small room, made her bed neatly, and walked to class. Other students watched her pass through the hallways. At first, they watched with hunger, waiting for the moment when someone would finally kill the weak human. But as weeks went by, they watched with something else. Curiosity, confusion, maybe even respect. Combat theory was her first class of the day. The instructor was an ancient, a being made of living crystal that glowed different colors when it spoke. It taught the principles of war that had been developed over millions of years by thousands of species. Failed every written exam. She did not understand battle formations. She could not remember the names of famous generals. She had no idea what the correct response was when enemy forces flanked your position. But she asked questions. "Why would you attack a planet?" she asked one day, raising her small hand while giant warriors turned to stare at her. "If you need something from them, why not just ask nicely first?" The instructor flickered with colors that meant it was thinking. Attack is faster, more certain. Negotiation can fail. But attack can fail too, said. And if you destroy the planet, you cannot get what you wanted from it. If you ask nicely and they say no, you can still attack later. But if you attack first and realize you should have asked, it is too late. The classroom was silent. These were warriors. They had never thought about asking nicely. The colors shifted to something that might have been amusement. An interesting perspective, student park. Inefficient for warriors, but interesting. Wrote this down in her notebook. She had many notebooks now, filled with things she did not understand but wanted to remember. Weapons training was her second class. The instructor was a veteran of dozens of battles who had lost 2 of its 6 arms in combat. The training room was filled with weapons from across the galaxy. Energy rifles, plasma swords, gravity hammers, biological weapons that were actually alive. Could not lift most of them. The energy rifle was too heavy. The plasma sword burned her hands even through the safety gloves. The gravity hammer weighed more than she did. Instructor looked at her for a long time. Then it went to a storage room and came back with a small rectangle. "What is this?" asked. "A standard human communication tablet. It is the only weapon in this room that you can operate." Took the tablet. It was very nice, actually. Much better than the one she had used on Earth. "Thank you, instructor." "It is not a gift, student. It is a surrender. I cannot teach you weapons. You are too small, too weak, and too human. Use the tablet to record the lessons. Perhaps you can learn something by watching." Did not feel insulted. She felt grateful. She sat in the corner of the training room with her tablet and watched the other students learn. She recorded everything. She made notes. She organized the notes into categories. Then something strange happened. Other students started coming to her corner. Not to hurt her, not to mock her. They came because they had heard about her notes. "Student Park," a young said one day, "I do not understand the difference between the Type 7 and Type 8 energy configurations. It is confusing." Looked at her notes. "Let me show you, I made a chart." The chart was very good. It was organized by color and had clear labels and simple explanations. They understood immediately. Word spread. Soon, students from every species were visiting Corner. They asked about weapon types and battle formations and historical campaigns. Did not know the answers herself, but she knew where to find them. She had organized everything. She started study groups. Massive warriors sat in circles around the small human, listening as she explained things in simple words. Instructor watched from across the room, confused. The student who could not lift a weapon was teaching the students who could. Survival course was her hardest class. Students were dropped onto dangerous planets and left there for 2 weeks. They had to find food, build shelter, avoid predators, and survive until the pickup ship arrived. Was dropped onto a world called Seven. It was covered in dark forests and filled with creatures that wanted to eat her. She had no weapons, no training, and no idea what she was doing. On the first day, she found a small cave and cleaned it out. She gathered soft plants to make a bed. She collected water from a stream and boiled it over a fire. On the second day, she started a garden. The soil was good, and some of the local plants looked like vegetables. She was not sure if they were safe to eat, so she watched what the small animals ate and chose those plants. On the third day, a creature found her cave. It was big and covered with spikes and had teeth that could crush bone. The Academy database listed it as threat level, extreme, kill on sight. Did not have anything to kill it with. The creature approached slowly. It sniffed at her. It growled. It opened its mouth to bite. Held out a vegetable from her garden. The creature stopped. It sniffed the vegetable. Then very slowly it ate from her hand. Named it. By the end of 2 weeks, slept outside her cave like a guard dog. It followed her around the forest and protected her from other predators. When the pickup ship arrived, the pilot nearly crashed from shock. "Student Park," the pilot said, "that creature has killed 17 students in the history of this course. What did you do to it?" "I fed it," said, "and I scratched behind its spikes. It likes that." She was not allowed to bring home, but she cried when she said goodbye. Made a sad sound and watched the ship leave until it was just a dot in the sky. Had not forgotten about the duel. The great warrior approached in the cafeteria one afternoon. Other students moved away, expecting violence. Small human said, "Your time is over, we fight now." Put down her food, she stood up and bowed politely. "If you insist, I accept, but may I ask you something first?" Made a clicking sound of annoyance. "What?" "Why do you want to kill me?" "Because you are weak, because you do not belong here, because killing you will bring me honor." Nodded. "I understand, but can I ask about your family? I read that family is very important to the..." Froze. Among its people, discussing family was sacred. It was an honor that was rarely offered to outsiders, and refusing to answer would bring great shame. "What do you want to know?" asked carefully. "Do you have children?" "One daughter. Her hatching ceremony is in 3 days." "That is wonderful. Congratulations. What is her name?" "She will be strong." "I am sure she will be. You must be very proud." Was silent for a long moment. "I am," it admitted, "but I will not be there. The journey home takes 5 days. I cannot leave and return in time." "That is very sad," said, and she meant it. "The hatching ceremony only happens once. You cannot get that day back." Sat down. It was strange to see such a large creature look so tired. "My duty is here. Combat training is sacred too. I cannot abandon my training for personal matters." But who will welcome into the world? Who will be the first face she sees? Was quiet for a long time, then it stood up. This duel is postponed. I must speak with my instructors about emergency leave. Good luck called after it. Tell I said hello. Stopped at the door. It turned around and looked at her with an expression she could not read. Then it left. It returned to the academy 6 days later. The duel was never mentioned again. Sometimes would sit near in the cafeteria, not talking, just sitting. A new student arrived at the academy. Her name was, and she was also Korean. She said she was from the intelligence division, sent to observe and document the academy's training methods. But noticed that watched her more than anyone else. When walked to class was there. When organized study groups took notes. When talked to other students listened. Are you here to study me? Asked one day. Looked surprised. What makes you think that? You are always nearby, and you write in your notebook whenever I do something. Was quiet for a moment, then she smiled. You are smarter than people think, Park. Yes, I am here because of you. The government wants to understand how you keep surviving. I do not know myself, admitted. I just try to be kind and helpful. That is all I know how to do. Wrote something in her notebook. That, she said, is exactly what I am trying to understand. In the deepest part of the station, a being called the architect sat in a dark room. It was ancient beyond measure, the creator of the academy, a being that had seen civilizations rise and fall. It had not shown interest in any student for 300 years. But now it called instructor to its chamber. The human female, the architect said, its voice was like wind through empty halls. Park, what is she? Considered his words carefully. She is unusual architect. She has no combat ability. Her threat level is the lowest in our history. And yet she survives. She thrives. She changes the students around her. Yes, architect, I do not understand it myself. The architect was silent for a long time. Continue to observe her. Report everything to me. I believe we are witnessing something rare. What is that, architect? A new kind of strength, one we have never seen before. At the end of the semester, rankings were posted. Every student gathered to see where they stood. Was last in every combat category. Dead last. Her scores were so low that they almost did not fit on the chart. But there were other categories. Unit cohesion first. Morale impact first. Strategic unpredictability first. The students stared at the rankings in silence. Then they looked at the small human who had organized their study groups and befriended their most dangerous creatures and convinced their strongest warrior to go home to his daughter. Found her that evening. She was teaching how to make kimchi. The massive was very carefully cutting vegetables with claws that could slice through metal. Sat down and watched. He had been sent here to become the perfect soldier. Instead, he was learning that perfection looked nothing like what he expected. You are strange, Park, he said. She smiled at him. Is that bad? No, he said slowly. I do not think it is. Offered him a piece of kimchi. He took it. It was actually pretty good. The alarm started at midnight. Woke up to red lights flashing in her room and a voice screaming from every speaker in the station. She had never heard this voice before. It sounded afraid. All students to battle stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. The Void Collective has breached our outer defenses. All students to battle stations. Did not know what the Void Collective was. She had read something about it in her studies, but the details were not clear. A machine intelligence, she remembered. Something that had destroyed civilizations. She got out of bed and put on her shoes. She was not sure where her battle station was supposed to be. No one had ever assigned her one because no one expected her to fight. The hallways were chaos. Students ran in every direction, grabbing weapons and shouting orders. Explosions shook the station and the lights flickered. Through a window, saw ships fighting in space. Bright flashes of weapons fire lit up the darkness. Found her in the crowd. He grabbed her arm and pulled her along. "Stay close to me," he said. "The void is boarding. Their machines are already inside the station." "What should I do?" asked. Looked at her small form, her complete lack of weapons, her wide and frightened eyes. "Survive," he said. "Just survive." He led her through the hallways until they reached a secure area near the armory. Other students were there, building barricades and preparing weapons, pushed behind a barrier of metal boxes. "Stay here, do not move, I will be back." Then he was gone, running toward the sounds of battle. Sat behind the boxes and listened to the war happening around her. The sounds were terrible, screaming, explosions, the strange humming noise that the void machines made. She covered her ears, but she could still hear it. In other parts of the station, the battle was not going well. Instructor led a squad of students defending the command center. The void machines were everywhere, silver and black creatures that moved like liquid metal. They learned from every attack. When the students used energy weapons, the void adapted. When they used physical attacks, the void adapted. Nothing worked for long. "They are predicting our movements," said into his communicator. "Every tactic we use, they counter within seconds. We need new strategies." But there were no new strategies. These students were trained in the old ways, the proven ways, the ways that had worked for thousands of years. The void had studied all of them. Was fighting in the docking bay with a group of warriors. They were some of the strongest fighters in the galaxy, but even they were being pushed back. "They do not tire," reported. "They do not fear, they only learn and adapt. For everyone we destroy, two more arrive." The void strategy was simple and terrifying. Their machines observed every movement, every attack pattern, every predictable response. Their central network processed this information and sent updated tactics to every unit instantly. Against trained warriors, this made them almost unstoppable. Warrior species followed patterns. It was part of what made them effective. They drilled movements until they became automatic. They learned techniques until they became instinct. The void used this against them. Was still hiding behind the boxes when she realized she was hungry. It seemed like a strange thing to notice during an invasion, but she had missed dinner. Her stomach was making noises. She tried to ignore it, but the battle seemed to be happening far away from her hiding spot, and she was really quite hungry. She remembered that the cafeteria was not far from here. Maybe she could get some food quickly and come back before anyone noticed. This was a terrible idea, and some part of knew it. But another part of her remembered that she had never been good at staying still when there was something she could do, even if that something was small. She crawled out from behind the boxes and made her way down the hallway. The cafeteria was empty when she arrived. The lights were dim, running on emergency power. The cooking staff had fled when the alarm started, but there was still food on the counters, prepared for dinner but never served. Found some rice and vegetables. She sat down at a table and began to eat. It felt strange to be eating during a battle, but what else could she do? She could not fight. She could not help. She could only be small and quiet and try not to get in the way. The door to the cafeteria opened. Looked up, 3 void machines stood in the entrance. They were humanoid in shape but made of flowing silver metal. Their faces were blank, with only a single glowing sensor where eyes should be. They moved silently, their bodies making no sound at all. Froze, her chopsticks stopped halfway to her mouth. The machines scanned the room. Their sensors found her immediately. They began to approach. Knew she should run. She knew she should scream. She knew she should do something, but she was so scared that she could not move at all. The machines got closer. They stopped a few meters away from her table. And then nothing happened. The machines just stood there. Their sensors flickered. Their bodies twitched slightly, but they did not attack. Waited, still nothing. Slowly, very slowly, she lowered her chopsticks. "Hello," she said. Her voice was shaking. "Would you like some food?" The machines did not respond. Looked at them more carefully. They seemed stuck, like computers that had frozen in the middle of a task. She remembered what had told her about the void. They predicted actions. They learned patterns. They adapted to fighting styles. But was not fighting. She was not running. She was not doing anything that warriors did. She was just sitting in a cafeteria, eating rice and being polite. The machines had no pattern to predict. Their tactical algorithms were designed for combat, not for this. They were waiting for her to do something aggressive so they could calculate a response. When she did nothing, they could not proceed. Stood up very slowly. She picked up her bowl of rice. She walked around the machines, who twitched but did not move. She sat down at a different table and continued eating. The machines turned to follow her with their sensors, but still, they did not attack. Arrived at the cafeteria 10 minutes later. She was looking for, hoping the small human was still alive. What she found made her stop in shock. Was cleaning tables around 3 frozen void machines. "What did you do?" asked. "I do not know," said. "I just offered them food and they stopped moving." Looked at the machines. She looked at, then she understood. She grabbed her communicator. "All units, this is Agent. I have discovered a potential countermeasure to the void. Listen carefully." Across the station, the message spread. In the command center, heard it and made a decision. "All units, stop fighting. I repeat, stop fighting. Engage in non-combat actions, anything at all." The students thought he was crazy, but they were losing anyway, so what did they have to lose? A group of warriors stopped fighting and sat down. They began to sing an old song from there. The void machines facing them froze, unable to process warriors who were singing instead of attacking. Near the armory, watched in disbelief as his squad put down their weapons and started doing jumping exercises. The machines approaching them stuttered and stopped. In the docking bay, stood still in the middle of a group of void units. It did not attack. It did not defend. It just started juggling pieces of debris, a game it had learned as a child. The machines could not understand why a warrior would juggle during combat. Their networks overloaded with error messages. Across the entire station, the Void Collective's coordination network began to fail. The machines were designed to fight warriors. They could predict attacks and counter defenses, but they could not understand singing or juggling or cleaning or sitting quietly. Their central network, which connected all the units, started to crash. Too many errors, too much impossible data. The predictions could not be made. The adaptations could not be calculated. The void machines began to shake and spark. And then they fell. Every machine in the station dropped at the same moment. The central network had collapsed, unable to handle the illogical behavior of so many species at once. In the docking bay, looked at the fallen machines. Then it roared. "For the small human's lunch." The other took up the cry. They charged out of the station, toward the void mothership that was trying to escape. Personally destroyed the main boarding vessel, crushing it with 6 arms and too much anger. The battle was over. Was still in the cafeteria when they found her. She had finished cleaning the tables and was now trying to make tea, even though the water was not hot enough. The architect appeared before her. No one had seen the ancient being leave its chambers in 300 years. Now it stood in a cafeteria, looking at a small human who was disappointed about her tea. The architect bowed. Every warrior in the room stopped breathing. The architect bowed to no one. It had never bowed in the entire history of the academy. "Humanity," the architect said, its voice like ancient stone, "is the most terrifying species I have ever encountered." Looked up at the massive, ancient being. "I am sorry, I do not understand. I did not do anything brave. I was just scared and hungry." "Exactly," the architect said. "You did what no warrior would do. You were simply yourself, and in doing so you showed us a new kind of strength." Thought about this. Then she held up her cup. "Would you like some tea? It is not very good, but it is warm." The architect looked at the cup. Then, slowly, it extended something that might have been a hand and took it. "Yes," it said, "I would like that very much." Arrived at the cafeteria a few minutes later. He had been fighting across the station, searching for, terrified that she was dead. He found her having tea with the creator of the academy, while 3 deactivated void machines sat in the corner. She had put a blanket on one of them. "I called him," she said, pointing to the machine with the blanket. "He looks cold." Sat down heavily. The universe did not make sense anymore, but somehow that was okay. Returned from destroying the mothership. It was covered in oil and mechanical fluids and looked more alive than ever before. "Small human," it said, "you have saved the academy. My clan is in your debt." "I just ate dinner," said. "You ate dinner and saved us all. This is even more impressive." Smiled. She did not feel like a hero. She felt like someone who had been in the right place at the right time, doing the only thing she knew how to do. But maybe she thought that was enough. Wrote her report that night. Her hands were shaking as she typed the final line. Subject: Park is not a weapon. She is something far more dangerous. She is kind. 1 year had passed since Park arrived at the Galactic Apex Combat Institute. The graduation ceremony was held in the Great Hall, a massive space carved from the heart of the asteroid. 3,000 of the galaxy's deadliest warriors sat in neat rows, wearing their formal uniforms and carrying their ceremonial weapons. Light filtered down from crystal windows high above, making everything look golden and ancient. Sat near the back. Her uniform was the same as everyone else's, dark and simple and serious, but she looked different somehow. Smaller, softer, like a flower growing in a field of swords. The past year had been strange and wonderful and terrifying. She had failed almost every combat test. Her physical scores were the lowest in the Academy's history. She still could not lift most weapons, and she still got lost in zero gravity. But she had survived. More than that, she had changed things. The study groups she started had become official programs. The cafeteria now served food from dozens of worlds, after she had politely suggested that warriors fought better when they had good meals. The academy had added new courses in negotiation and cultural understanding, after her questions in class had made the instructors think about things differently. And the Void Collective, the terror of 12 civilizations, had never recovered from the battle of GACI. Their central network, designed to predict warrior behavior, had developed permanent errors. They fled whenever they detected humans in a star system, unable to calculate how to fight a species that might offer them food instead of weapons. The architect stepped onto the stage. The ancient being moved slowly, its form casting long shadows across the hall. Silence fell immediately. "Students of GACI," it said, "you have completed the hardest training in the galaxy. You have proven yourselves in combat and in sacrifice. You are now graduates of the Galactic Apex Combat Institute. Go forth and bring honor to your worlds." One by one, students walked to the stage to receive their diplomas. Massive warriors and deadly predators accepted their certificates with pride. Each one would become a legend in their home system. When's name was called, something unusual happened. The entire hall stood up. 3,000 warriors, the deadliest beings from 400 star systems, rose to their feet in silence. They did not clap. They did not cheer. They simply stood, watching the small human walk to the stage. Did not understand what was happening. She looked around, confused, expecting someone to explain, but no one spoke. She walked up the stairs to where the architect waited. The ancient being looked down at her with eyes that had seen galaxies born and die. "Park," it said, "1 year ago you arrived here by accident. You had no training, no combat ability, no chance of survival, and yet you stand here today, not only alive but legendary." Shook her head. I am not legendary, I just tried to be helpful. That is exactly what makes you legendary. The architect held out a diploma, but also something else, a medal that had never seen before. This is the Medal of Strategic Innovation. It has been given only 3 times in the history of this academy. The last time was 400 years ago. You have earned it not by fighting, but by showing us that there are other ways to win. Took the medal. It was small and simple, a circle of metal with a strange symbol on it. Thank you, she said quietly. I do not feel like I deserve this. The ones who deserve honors never feel they do. That is how we know they deserve them. After the ceremony, representatives from every major military in the galaxy approached. They offered her positions: advisor to the Galactic Council, strategic consultant for the Alliance fleet, ambassador to the Void border regions. Listened to each offer politely. Then she said the same thing to each one. Thank you, but no, I want to go home. They did not understand. She was being offered power and prestige. She was being offered a chance to shape the galaxy. Why would she refuse? Instructor found her packing her small bag in her room. She did not have many things. Some notebooks, some photographs, the blanket she had put on the Void drone, which the maintenance staff had let her keep. You are returning to Earth, said. It was not a question. Yes, sir. I was accepted to the Administrative Academy before all this happened. I want to finish what I started. You could change the galaxy from here. Smiled. I do not want to change the galaxy. I just want to help people. And there is someone on Earth who has waited a long time for me to come back. Was silent for a moment. Director, the one who sent you here. He did not mean to. It was a mistake. Was it? Looked at her old instructor. His yellow eyes were still impossible to read, but she thought she saw something there, something like knowing. What do you mean? She asked. I requested your file from Earth after the Void battle. I wanted to understand how you came to be here. The clerical error that sent you to us was caused by a typing mistake, a 7 instead of a 1. Yes, I know. The mistake was made 40 years ago, by a young clerk on his first day at the Galactic Integration Office. His name was. Sat down heavily on her bed. Director made the error, my director. Yes, and he never corrected it. He let it sit in the system for 40 years. When you applied for the Administrative Academy, the old error activated. You were sent here instead. But why? Why would he do that? I do not know. Perhaps you should ask him. The transport ship left the next morning, stood at the observation window and watched the academy get smaller and smaller. She had never expected to miss this place, but she did. Was on the ship with her. He had requested permanent reassignment as her military liaison and bodyguard. The government had agreed, though they were not sure what a desk worker needed a genetically enhanced super soldier for. I could not let you go alone, he said when she asked why. Someone needs to protect you. From what? I am going to do paperwork. From whatever comes next. I have learned that strange things happen around you, Park. I want to be there when they do. Had said goodbye at the docking bay. The Massive had knelt down so that its face was level with hers. My clan has declared blood debt to you, it said. We will protect your lineage for eternity. If you ever need us, call and we will come. That is very kind, said, but I hope I will never need an army. So do I, but if you do, you have one. Its daughter had grown quickly in the past year. She was already learning to fight, but she had also learned something else. When told stories of the small human who had saved the academy, would add details about kindness and tea. The younger were calling it the soft way. The elders did not approve, but change moved slowly and could not be stopped. Had submitted her final report to Korean intelligence before left. Subject Park has completed her training at GACI with the lowest combat scores in recorded history. She has also achieved the highest survival rate, highest peer approval rating, and is credited with developing the tactical approach that defeated the Void Collective's machine intelligence. She has been offered positions by every major power in the galaxy and has refused all of them. She is returning to Earth to work in an administrative office. Recommendation: observe but do not interfere. Subject Park is not a weapon, a spy, or a strategic asset in the traditional sense. She is something we do not have a classification for. She is simply good. The ship landed on Earth 3 days later, walked out of the docking bay and into the sunlight of Sol. It was spring and the cherry blossoms were blooming. She had missed this. Director was waiting for her at the spaceport. He was older than she remembered, his hair and his face more lined. When he saw her, his eyes filled with tears. "Miss Park," he said, "you came back." "I said I would, Director. I never break promises." He wiped his eyes. "I am so sorry. I should have told you. 40 years ago, on my first day, I made a mistake. I was young and scared, and I typed the wrong number. I knew I should report it, but I was afraid I would lose my job, so I did nothing. And the error stayed in the system. Yes, for 40 years. I forgot about it eventually. And then you applied, and I saw the confirmation come through, and I knew what I had done." Was quiet for a moment. "You could have told me before I left." "I know, I was a coward. I let you go to that terrible place and I said nothing. I have thought about it every day since. I do not deserve your forgiveness." Looked at this old man. He had carried his secret for 40 years. He had watched her leave for the most dangerous place in the galaxy, knowing he was responsible. He had lived with that guilt for an entire year. She stepped forward and hugged him. "Thank you," she said. Froze. "What?" "Thank you. If you had not made that mistake, I would never have gone to GACI. I would never have met or instructor. I would never have made so many friends. I would never have learned that I am stronger than I thought." "But you could have died. You almost died many times." "Yes, but I did not. And now I am home and I have stories to tell and I have a family across the galaxy who loves me. That is not a tragedy, Director. That is an adventure." Held on to her for a long time. He did not have words for what he was feeling. Relief, maybe. Gratitude. Wonder at this small woman who could find good in everything, even his greatest failure. Behind them, a shadow fell over the spaceport. People screamed and ran. They looked up and saw a massive shape descending from the sky. It was a warship, covered in weapons and scars, the most terrifying thing most of them had ever seen. Smiled and waved. The ship landed nearby, and a door opened. A young emerged, smaller than but still huge by human standards. It looked around at the panicking humans with curiosity. "Auntie," it called out. "Father said I could visit." Walked over and hugged the massive child. "Look how big you have gotten. Director, come meet my niece. She wants to try kimchi." Looked at the warship, at the alien child, at Park, the clerical error, the survivor, the legend. "I think," he said slowly, "retirement can wait. I want to see what happens next." In the years that followed, Park did work at the administrative academy. She organized files and fixed systems and made sure that no one else was ever sent to the wrong school by accident. She was very good at her job. But she also did other things. She advised governments on non-combat solutions to problems. She taught classes on understanding different species. She traveled to worlds on the edge of civilization and solved conflicts by listening and offering food. Brought its entire clan to visit once a year. They would fill the streets of Seoul with their massive forms and confuse everyone by being very polite. Never left her side. He eventually stopped carrying weapons everywhere. He learned to make tea. The architect sent a message every month, short observations about the universe, questions about humanity. Once, it sent a thank you note for the tea recipe. And in the halls of GACI, a new plaque hung in the entrance. Every student who arrived saw it first, before they saw anything else. It read, The deadliest weapon is not the one that destroys. It is the one that makes destruction unnecessary. Park, Class of 2348. Threat level, unmeasurable. Below the plaque, someone had added a small note in handwriting that looked very much like. She also makes very good kimchi. And across the galaxy, in every system where humans traveled, a new story was told. About a small woman who could not fight. About a clerical error that changed everything. About the day the deadliest school in the universe learned that there was more than one way to be strong. They called it the legend of the soft way. And it all started with a smile.